Mayor Richard J. Daley was resolute in 1975 when faced with the prospect of losing the Chicago Bears to the northwest suburb of Arlington Heights. Quote, "They can use the name Arlington Heights Bears, but they'll never use the name of Chicago if I'm the mayor." The old man was playing hardball, so to speak, and it worked. The Bears stayed in Chicago and played at Soldier Field, which before completely falling apart was renovated in 2002 in a deal cut by the old man's son, Richard M. Daley, to keep the Bears from moving out of town again. And now another mayor, this one not named Daley, is facing the prospect of losing the NFL's charter franchise to the suburbs. Mayor Brandon Johnson teamed up with Bears president Kevin Warren in proposing a spot just to the south of Soldier Field on the lakefront. It's a problematic site that would almost certainly face a lawsuit from Friends of the Parks, and one where state lawmakers have said they refuse to open up the checkbook and help pay for it. For a while, Warren wouldn't entertain the notion that the Bears were looking anywhere else than the lakefront, but in recent weeks, he's appeared to change his mind about Arlington Heights.
The McCaskey family, led by George, to have the foresight to purchase that land in Arlington Heights, but to be able to find 326 acres that close to a wonderful city is difficult to do. I don't know if it exists anywhere in the country.
So now, can Johnson pull a Daley out of his playbook and play hardball on the Bears? Why not issue the same threat? Look, I get that fans will follow the team wherever they go. They could build the stadium in Rantoul, and it'll sell if the team is good. But there's a measure of civic pride in knowing that all of Chicago's major professional sports teams play within the city limits. What a shame to lose that designation. And Mayor, there is a spot on the lakefront for the Bears, one that they can build on without the threat of a lawsuit. It's right here, the former Michael Reese Hospital site, owned now by Farpoint Properties and CEO Scott Goodman. He is heavily core to the team and presented his own stadium plans on the site. And guess what? Lawmakers might put some taxpayer skin in the game, too, as House Speaker Chris Welch explained to me earlier this year.
They chose a site like Michael Reese, which that's a neighborhood, Bronzeville, that can certainly use some great economic development. You know, that's a different conversation. The state, you know, has a road fund that we could probably help with building roadways or improving the roadways around the area. That's a totally different conversation than what's being asked right now.
So the ball is in your court, Mayor. Every pundit in the local sports world believes the deal is all but done in Arlington Heights, but it's the fourth quarter. There's less than a minute on the clock. The Bears have the ball on their own 5-yard line. Can Mayor quarterback a stunning come-from-behind victory to hit pay dirt at Michael Reese Hospital? If not, Mr. Caleb Williams, number 18, who you see there, will be hoisting the Super Bowl trophy one day for the Arlington Heights Bears. And that's our opening shot.
Coming up on Paris on Politics.
It's a tool that stays in the toolbox until we need it.
Could Chicago resort to snap curfews to quell teen violence downtown? We get into the debate. Plus, the future of CPS now that labor strife with CTU has been resolved for now. And the owner of a popular Riverwalk spot speaks out after the city yanks his license.
This is Paris on Politics from Fox 32 Chicago.
All right, welcome to Paris on Politics, where we go behind the headlines and beyond the spin. As the weather gets warmer, the threat of disruptive teen activity in the Loop grows. One alderman has been calling for a curfew to quell these gatherings that sometimes turn into gun violence. And now he says there's a compromise to allow for police to declare spot curfews at any time. Will that work? Joining me is the sponsoring alderman of that proposal, 2nd Ward's Brian Hopkins, and via Zoom, 40th Ward Alderman Andre Vasquez. Thanks, both of you, for being here. So as I understand, Alderman Hopkins, under this compromise, police could declare a curfew at any time, anywhere in the city?
Yes, exactly. It's citywide, and unlike my previous proposal to change the time from 10 p.m. to 8 p.m., this time will be determined by the circumstances. If you have a large gathering that's out of control at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you can declare a curfew for unaccompanied minors at that specific time in that specific location.
So how would that work, though? How do you get the message out to declare a curfew?
Well, there's two ways to do it. We have the superintendent, who is empowered to declare a teen curfew in anticipation of an event. For example, we see social media postings, come to Millennium Park this Saturday, meet at 6 p.m. we can declare a teen curfew in effect for that moment days in advance when we have advance warning, and in which case we'll do all kinds of notification. You've seen the email that goes out to CPS parents, other means using social media to put the word out that we're simply not going to let the teen gathering take place. If, on the other hand, we have no warning whatsoever, and that's what the case was just a few weeks ago, where about 300 teens got off the red line in the course of about 45 minutes and congregated in Streeterville, we didn't know it was happening until it was already in progress. The district commander on the ground can declare a curfew in effect based on what he sees and what he observes for a specific period of time, again, just in that neighborhood.
All right, 40th Ward Alderman Andre Vasquez, is this an idea that you're prepared to support?
I think I've got questions on it, and I do really appreciate that our colleague, Chairman Hopkins, has kind of been working to figure out what right could look like. I think the questions I have, first and foremost, is what the officers feel they can't do currently that a curfew imposition would empower them to do. Meaning, if someone is behaving in a way that's reckless, police should be able to address that already. So, I think we'll learn in a hearing. My concern is that they'll use it in a way that could profile, right? That you're not going to see this in Wrigleyville when someone's taking over a street. It'll be when you see, black and brown kids in downtown. And when we think about why so many kids are downtown, it's because they're trying to find places to actually entertain themselves, to congregate, and we don't have enough of them in Chicago and across the city for people to do so.
All right, you brought up an important point. Alderman Hopkins, what can police not do now that they need more tools to be able to accomplish?
In any one of these mass teen takeover events, there's a number of crimes being committed: disorderly conduct, reckless conduct, retail theft, aggravated battery, assault, blocking traffic. There's a long list of things that police can move in to make arrests. The point of having a curfew is we would rather not arrest 200 14-year-olds. If we have a way to have police move in, quell the disturbance, break it up, and remove those kids for their own safety without arresting them, that is a vastly superior alternative to moving in and making mass arrests of a bunch of juveniles.
All right, let's hear from Mayor Brandon Johnson, who was asked whether he would support this compromise proposal the other day. Let's take a listen.
There has to be ongoing conversations, right? Because all stakeholders get to play a part in the direction of how we create accountability and safety. Look, nothing's more important to me as the mayor of the city of Chicago than the overall safety of all of our residents. And so that's why this is yet another example of all voices coming together to put forth ideas so that we can come to a reasonable solution.
Alderman Vasquez, are there other ideas you have to come to a reasonable solution? As we've seen, as the weather gets warm, we see these groups gathering downtown.
Yeah, and I think because Chairman Hopkins kind of had this conversation about these adjustments, it led to me talking to some other colleagues about, well, what do we do in the moment that wouldn't be the solution? And what was raised up, which I think is an opportunity, is the groups that already do violence prevention work. That in effect, they could occupy the space in a way that I think some of the curfew conversation envisions, but have it be someone who's not viewed as police, where they might be on the ground the way they do in other neighborhoods and create the kind of dispersal or get ahead of things before they can get to a situation that none of us want to see. So there might be other parties that could do the same work and not have it feel as martial law, I guess, as this might feel, depending how it's implemented.
That's an interesting way to put it, Alderman Hopkins. Is this kind of like martial law?
No, absolutely not. I mean, this would only be applied when absolutely necessary. No one wants to, have some kind of draconian measure where we want to discourage teenagers from coming downtown. Literally no one wants that. That's a straw man argument that's being created to just oppose this, and there's no logic or rationale behind it. We want teenagers to come downtown. What we don't want is the kind of violence that has been associated with these teen takeover events. We just had a 14-year-old shooting shoot a 15-year-old. 3 weeks before that, we had a 15-year-old shoot a tourist. That is unacceptable, and we need to use law enforcement tactics to intervene when the streets get absolutely out of control and the mayhem starts to gain momentum. We have to stop it, and we need police
And I want to ask you real quick, because tonight we see fencing going up in Streeterville. What's that all about?
Yeah, that's an experimental tactic that the district commander wanted to try, because we've had teen takeovers that started in Ogden Plaza near the Sheraton Hotel on Columbus Drive. And you'll get 200 teens that'll stay in that open space, and then all of a sudden they'll move out and take over the street. They'll take over Illinois Street, or they'll take over Fairbanks. So to put up the fencing is to basically prevent them from easily moving a mass number of humanity into traffic and taking over the roadway. We'll see if it works. It's a crowd control tactic.
And that'll be up over the weekend?
It'll be up over the weekend.
All right,
yeah.
Alderman Vasquez. Alderman Hopkins has told me that there are 30 co-sponsors of this ordinance. Is this something that you believe will move, or is going to be tweaked, or needs more discussion?
I mean, I think it's clear, and again, the council is talking and trying to figure out what a solution can look like. And so I do think that everyone is invested in making sure the city is safer. You know, I know it may feel like a straw man argument, but I think those of us who raise up concerns we don't know what the intent of someone who's using it might be, right? We're living in a country now where we're watching laws that have been written in the past and not envisioned being used in this manner. And so I think some of the concerns are just what could happen in worst case scenarios. And I say that because it's not that the questions that Alderman Hopkins brings up aren't valid. And I think the conversation might lead to a solution we can all wrap our heads around and agree potentially, but it's going to take a lot more hearings and conversations to figure that out.
All right, Alderman Vasquez, Alderman Hopkins, thank you both for joining us on this conversation. And coming up next, the future of CPS after teachers agree to a contract. We're right back after this.